Well, today we're continuing this series, and today unfortunately I'm talking about a subject that I have no personal experience with: lying. Fortunately, it's going to be a short sermon. That's two. Oh man. All right. Well, lying. I think we could take a poll and everybody would pretty much be against it, right? No one likes lying. We don't appreciate being lied to, and yet this is kind of a tool in our toolbox, as we're going to kind of see. I think it becomes that way because it comes so naturally to us. Lots of articles talk about this. It starts at about 10th grade. No, not at all. It starts as early as about 2.5 years old because we have a class on it. I didn't eat that piece of chocolate cake, right? No. Kids start to figure this out. In fact, here's the line on it. Lying is part of normal childhood behavior and development. They're not saying lying is good. They're just going, you're not a psychopath if you happen to lie. All the kids do it. Everyone. There's none. Right? Your toddler is starting to realize that you don't know everything. That comes full blown about teenagehood. And this gives them some wiggle room with the truth. Toddlers may begin to lie as early as 2.5, and they get better at it as they get older. I love that last line, right? We're near experts by the time we get to adulthood, right? We have figured out all the, it's not that we figured out joy, boy, I shouldn't lie. We have figured out all the different dimensions of lying and all the subtleties and all the ways to use it, not use it, and put some boundaries around it, right? This comes naturally to us. It's innate in one sense. Like, these kids are not figuring this out at 2.5 going, boy, mom and dad just lied about that. Maybe I should try that. There's no thought process. No one has obviously trained them. This is something from within us of going, as our mental capacities get to a place of going, wait a minute, I can fool you. I think I'll try it, right? And they go through different stages. This chart kind of showed at the different levels of childhood development of going what their capabilities are. This comes naturally to us, all right? Our culture then kind of adds on to that. They pile on and say it's unavoidable. It's almost necessary. So when I was growing up, I remember this show. If you were old enough, you might remember it. Three's Company. You guys remember that? It was a show basically based on a lie. So it's these three people that live in LA, rent is really high and they can't afford it by themselves. And so this guy connects up with these two girls, but at that time, they would never let a guy share an apartment with two girls. And so he has to pretend that he's gay so that he can be allowed to live in this apartment. So it's a whole thing built on a lie, but he's not. It's just that they're pretending all this to be. One episode on it, though, is that he gets this, John Ritter gets this, his character decides, you know what, I am going to be truthful. I am never going to tell another lie again. I will always tell the truth. And of course, that episode was putting him in the most ridiculous situations, as simple as somebody coming up to him and going, look, I painted a picture, what do you think? And he doesn't want to hurt their feelings because it's awful, right? Or he really wants something. If he would just shave the truth a little bit, he would get it. Of course, he can't do it. And so I don't know why at my development at that age, it just kind of stuck with me, that episode of going, oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, lying is unavoidable. It's almost necessary for us to kind of get through. There's all these different things. I mean, we all get kind of the essence of a bold-faced lie, but we have all these different shades of lying that we really do use. In fact, I would say lying is tricky. It would seem that my job up here as a pastor is to have a white box and a black box and go, there's clearly, you're either telling the truth or you're lying, right? And have a nice solid line. But it's tricky. It's tricky. we would understand lying to be to tell someone an untruth, right? But it's more than that. Because if I tell you something untrue and I don't know that it's untrue, am I lying? No, I'm just an ignorant fool. I'm not informed enough. I got something wrong. I misspoke, right? To really lie is not only to get something untrue, but to know that it's untrue and intentionally mislead you. So at the bottom, lying is really, the intention is that key part of it. It's not just a part, it's actually the key part. Because we might think, when we think of lying, we think of, well, you're saying something untrue. But I think the intentionality is actually deeper than that. So let me give you a scenario, a wild scenario. Say my son started driving a car without his license. The police pull into my driveway. I go, Ben, hide in the back room. I'll take care of the door. I go and I answer the door. He's thinking in the room, Dad's not a very good liar. He's a pastor. He's not very good at this. And so he climbs out the window. The policemen come to my door and say, is your son home? And I go, he's not in this house. Did I lie? He climbed out the window. He's not in the house. I didn't say anything untrue. I don't know that it's untrue. I'd say I lied, right? Because I meant to deceive you. Just because I made a mistake and I didn't have the information correct doesn't mean that I lied. My intentionality, my intention to deceive is the very key part of this. It's one of the interesting things as we're going through all of this is what I intend actually defines it more than the content itself. Lying also has all these different kinds, right? We know the bold-faced lie. The Cleveland Browns are an amazing NFL team. A bold-faced lie. Don't believe it. I'm lying to you through my teeth for decades, right? Not very good. Not very good. But there are types of lying that, well, how about lying because I didn't say something? I left something out. Honey, you went shopping. Did you buy something? Yes, I bought shoes. Now, she left out the dress and I'm making this all up here, right? If she left out all that, we could turn around and she'd go, did you stop for food? Yes, I did. I didn't tell her the 5 restaurants that I stopped at, right? 5 times. I left that out. Is that lying? I didn't say anything inaccurate, but I left out key information. We'd go, that's deceptive. How about lying with your body language? Can you do that? That seems awful strange. So they did this study with 2 to 4-year-olds. They put them in a room, they put a toy behind them and said, don't look at the toy. And then they left for 5 minutes. They came back. 90% of the kids had looked at the toy. The other 10% became pastors. That's not true. So out of these 90% that had looked, a third of them admitted, yeah, I looked. They probably were pastors' kids. Another third bold-faced lied, said, no, we didn't look at all. Another third, they just pretended they didn't hear the question. They didn't say anything. Can you lie with your body language? Maybe. They redid that same thing with the next section of older kids. They had a little more self-control, not so many looked. But the ones that looked, they said, kind of surprisingly, they had kind of like this downcast face about it. As they waited out their 5 minutes. But as soon as someone came in the room, they brightened and cheered right up as they told the lie. I didn't look. Can you lie with your body language? Yeah. Lots of different kinds and ways that we do this, and lots of different motivations. We could go down through the whole list. Maybe we'll talk about them a little bit. But we would all go, yeah, all right, so it's kind of tricky. There's a lot of different dimensions to this. But certainly we would agree, and the Bible would say, all lying is wrong, right? I mean, we got to be able to agree on that. For crying out loud, Pastor. We've got to have that. And so I would have thought too, except there was this pastor, a very famous pastor, hardcore pastor, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. You probably don't know the name, but he wrote some famous books. He was part of the resistance church movement to the Nazis in World War II. He was from Germany. Like, this was happening in his own country, going, what is going on? This is not Christianity. This has nothing to do with it. We've got to resist this. So he's hardcore. He put his life on the line. He eventually lost his life to that struggle. He came out and said, all lying is not wrong. Like, made my jaw drop a little bit. I mean, like, this guy his theology is deep and solid. How can he say this? He went, if I'm hiding Jews in my house and the Nazis break down my door and they ask me, where are you hiding Jews? He said, lie through your teeth. He said, because it's an illegitimate question. Just because someone asks you something doesn't mean that you have to answer in full truthfulness. You can take their intent into this. You know, he has a whole complicated scheme. Lying is tricky. I mean, there's a lot that we go, yep, that's wrong, and we know it's wrong, and we shouldn't do it. And we go, yep, this is truthful. But to whatever extent, you know, we could probably debate here a little bit of going, there's a part of this that's kind of tricky, and what do we do with this? What are all the subtle ways that we use this tool as adults and in our society to just kind of get along and go along? We know about the deception to hurt or harm or get advantage. We go, yeah, we don't want to do that, but there's a lot of other parts to this. Well, let's look at what Scripture says. This is from Proverbs 12. It says, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who tell the truth. That word detest it's kind of like something nasty in your mouth. You know, you eat it and it's been raw or bitter or, it's rotten and he detests it. I can't stand it. There's no place for this with me. He has no shades. He has no kind of equivocation here. He's just kind of going, I don't want anything to do with it. But what I really delight in, what I enjoy, what is a beautiful meal to me, I sit down and just enjoy every part of it, are those who tell the truth, being people of the truth. Now, in general, I'd go, yeah, we're there. We don't like being lied to. And certainly our experience is you lie to me and I find out, right? There's consequences for that. That relationship is damaged, break of trust, all that. And yet we still kind of use this. We're not quite to that, well, we don't like any part of it. But how do we sort through it? Let's come at it at a different angle. So Jesus kind of jumped into this. He was having a debate with some religious leaders. They were pushing back on him, going, you don't know anything. You're a crazy guy. You're making stuff up. And he pushes back pretty hard. He goes, you're just like your father. Your father, the devil. And this is who he is. So it's a pretty hardcore passage. Watch this. It says, the devil was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Do you know what Jesus is saying here? The devil is a politician. No, that's not true. No. My apologies to all politicians that are watching this right now. Or if you're in the room. No, that's not true. They're fishermen. I was corrected in between the services and going, you got the wrong category. No. A whole lot is going on here. He's going, look, it's not just that God detests lying, it's that it kind of goes back to this character thing. He's going, lies are rooted back into a spiritual enemy, the devil. And this first part is kind of interesting here that you might not know what's going on there. You know, the devil was a murderer from the beginning. You might not know that story or that reference. He's talking about the very first story of the Bible after creation. He's not going like the devil hid behind a rock and he came up behind somebody and stabbed. That's not it. We don't have that. We just have Adam and Eve in the garden. God has set them up and said, you've got it all. Leave one tree alone. Trust me for everything else. And here comes this whisper that says, you know what? God didn't. Did God really say that? Did God really mean that? Isn't he holding out on you? And she twists that and takes it and runs, both him and her. And they betray God and say, we can't trust you. And so they're expelled. They go on to have the first two boys, Cain and Abel. And what happens? Jealousy arises. And Cain rises up and kills Abel. It's not that Cain woke up one day and said, you know what, I want to be a violent person. He didn't wake up one day and just go, I hate Abel, I'm going to get rid of him. That murder began with a lie, a whisper in his ear of going, you know what? If it wasn't for your brother Abel, you'd be loved. If it wasn't for your brother Abel, you'd be accepted. See, the first problem wasn't the murder, it was this lie whispered in his ear. That's what Jesus is saying. From the very beginning, our actions come out of this place of lie, of untruth, and how we frame the world, and we go, you know what, we're going to make this the way that we want it. And we'll try and excuse it afterwards. He goes, that's just like your spiritual enemy. That is his native language. And when you lie, whatever shade we have of it, we don't reflect God's character. We reflect the devil's character. That's the economy he works on. So Jesus is kind of going beyond this kind of going moralistic, hey, you know what, let's try and identify this is true, this is untrue, and sorting all that out. As much as I see him going, this is a deeper thing, this is a character issue, this is about who you are and what you do and what lies at the bottom of that. So let's peel back some of those layers here. So, when we say the devil is going to work in your life, is going to whisper in your ear, we're not trying to do the devil made me do it type of a thing. That's bad theology. Remember, this just kind of comes up from within us. We're selfish just by our own things. But there are opportunities. The ultimate liar, the father of lies, whispers and invites us down this road. So 3 things he's trying to do. 1, he's just trying to get you to lie. Maybe it's a little one. Maybe it's a big one. I don't know. There's lots and lots of reasons why we lie. In fact, that same article talked about this. It said, from about age 4 onwards, children lie for many of the same reasons adults do. We're so advanced, right? We got the same reasons as 4-year-olds. To avoid punishment, to gain an advantage, to protect against unwanted consequences, even to boost our self-esteem, make me look good, better than you. Youngsters, just like adults, sometimes lie even just to demonstrate their power. I lie and deceive you just because I can get away with it, because I want to twist things. Maybe they do it to maintain their privacy, to protect a friend. When a child lies, she is essentially trying to change a situation to reconstruct things the way she wants them to be. Yeah, we're not all that advanced after 4. We've got all the same reasons, all the different shades, and this is common stuff. The Bible doesn't even bother to lay this all out. This is just kind of human experience. Anyone could kind of make this list and go, yeah, we lie in lots of different ways. We lie for lots of different reasons. We have different shades of that. But all the enemy's trying to do is to get you to start down that road, to take one step. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it is a big deal. Don't know. There's lots of ways that we can lie and say, well, that's perfectly fine. Just kind of like what Bonhoeffer did. If I asked you who lied this morning already, can you raise your hand? No one. No one lied in here. You bunch of liars. Yeah, I see how you are. We got a lot of work here. You might have admitted there, or you might be going, you know what? I don't need to admit that. I know that I have. But just because the pastor said it doesn't mean that I get to raise my hand. I don't want to confess that in front of everybody here. My question makes you do that. You might even be part of the group that just goes, you know what? I'm not going to raise my hand for anything just because the pastor asked me a question. I just don't raise my hand. Go ahead and raise your hand if you're one of those people. Thank you. I appreciate that. See, I just lied again. So easy. Yeah, it gets you to lie, you know. Whatever gets us kind of down that road, big, small, good intentions, bad intentions, whatever. Get you started. It's really the next step that is where we're going. He wants to get you to lie to yourself. You see, lies stack. They're not just kind of individual things. You know, that's what we imagine them to be. Well, I did a little lie here to kind of help out that situation. I did a little lie. I got a little bit ahead. That, you know, it's all okay. But every one of those begins with a lie of going, lying is okay, isn't it? It begins with that lie in myself. Because even if we admit, okay, it's kind of tricky, there's a little bit of this kind of gray, I don't know what to do with this type of stuff. When we start to go, well, I'm going to use it and I'll be the one that decides when it's wrong and when it's not, I've begun to lie to myself. And it begins to stack and add to it. A perfect example of this is in the movies, the Avenger movies. Now, I know some of you have not watched the Avenger movies, and I have no idea why, because they are phenomenal. They are amazing. And one of the best ones of all is Civil War. So you have all these different superhero movies. They're culminating, and they get to one of these later movies where it is about they're having a disagreement, and they fight one another. So it's not bad guy versus good guy. It's good guy versus good guy. And they're fighting over this political issue of going, hey, we need to take responsibility for what we're doing with our superhero actions and the consequences. You know, it's in one sense kind of sophisticated for that. And so this movie's kind of handing this out to you of going, this is the Civil War, this is the disagreement. And all the while, there's this building tension underneath it. Captain America has to defend one of his friends that has been wrongly accused of doing a terrorist act. He is innocent of this. He didn't do it. And so that's kind of mixed into this. But we think it's fighting about this political issue, and as they're doing this kind of ultimate fun battle, this other one kind of comes up. It's the final confrontation at the end. The real enemy has lured them into this fortress, and all he does is play a videotape of the killing of Iron Man's mom and dad by Captain America's friend Bucky when he was brainwashed by this evil company. He wasn't in his own right mind, he wasn't in control, and yet Iron Man stands there and watches his mom and dad get killed on the screen by the one that Captain America has been defending. Now, what happens after he watches that? Any Avengers? Does he go, Bucky, why'd you do that? How could you do that? What were you thinking? Don't try to get away. Does he do any of that? He turns to Captain America and asks one question. What did he ask? Did you know? What does that have to do with anything? It has everything to do with the situation, right? He's asking, did you lie to me? Did you withhold this truth from me? Now, Captain America is a righteous character in this. He's very well developed. And he hedges his bet. He goes, I didn't know it was him. Spoken like a true 4-year-old, right? Right? You know, I'm going to kind of sidestep the truth here. I'm not lying to you, but I'm just kind of telling you a partial truth. I'm posturing here. And Tony calls him out and says, don't mess with me. Tell me, did you know? And finally he comes clean and says, yes. And so ensues the final battle of this movie. It's a terrific battle. It's not about the fight. It is this fight that you now understand. You thought it was about this political issue, and suddenly No, it is about trust between partners. It's about telling the truth to one another. It's about withholding stuff. It's an amazing climactic fight. It's all about lying. The final scene of the movie is after they fought, they lost, they went separate ways. Captain America sends Tony a letter. And he says, "For a time I told myself that I didn't tell you about your parents' death to spare you. But now I see that I didn't tell you to spare me, and I'm sorry." Told no lie. He just withheld information. And it blew a friendship apart. It broke trust down to the very bottom. And Captain finally realized, no matter what good intention I had, my lying came back to me. You see, that's what lying does. We start with one little step. Little, big, doesn't matter. Good intention, bad intention, doesn't matter. Then suddenly that leads to, I'm lying to myself about it. And I'm starting to rearrange my life in ways of going, this is why this is all okay and why it's all going to work out better for me. Incredible part. Very sophisticated writing. That leads to the third part. The devil wants to get you to then live a lie. Not just tell a lie, not just lie to yourself, but when we start to internalize this, we begin to live the lie. That means to say, you know what? I say or present myself in one way, and really I am radically different than that. This is not about like imperfections. This is not about going, you know what? I kind of screw up. I don't have this all the way down. It's not that. This is portraying yourself, even to your own self. I'm this, but really, I'm not that. How do you portray yourself on Facebook? Does that match reality? Do we tell ourselves in all variety of ways, this won't hurt me. I can light up another cigarette. I can eat 3 more Big Macs. It's okay. I can handle that. It won't hurt me. You know, we could do 1,000,000 of those, right? Where we've just kind of gone, my lie now is normal. And I'm not even seeing the difference anymore. The Bible actually warns about this spiritually. John writes to the early church, he says, you know, if we claim to have fellowship with God, if we say we're a Jesus follower, I'm on track with this is what I want, and yet I walk in darkness. My life doesn't look anything like a Christ follower. I live how I want to. I think how I want to. I don't listen to God at all. I'm just this in name. Maybe I come to church, whatever, but there is no evidence. There's no real fruit. There is no real connection. Then we lie, and we do not do the truth. He says, watch out. He actually says this in another letter, almost the exact same thing. This was an issue then, it's probably an issue now. See, this is how lying works. We could do all the logistics and ups and downs and ethical scenarios we want to about the gray areas and is this okay, is that okay, is this in? Not the point at all. This is about character. Because once we start down that road and we take one step, then it leads to lying to ourselves. Once you start deceiving yourself, you are on track for going, my life, I'm living a lie. Here's a word picture for you. Lying is like cancer. A little bit of cancer is okay. You'll never hear anyone say, right? Now, a little bit can be okay, you know. Maybe it's just one spot on the skin. We're all right. Get that taken care of, I'm all right. It's one little spot. But the very essence of cancer is not that it's poisonous, it's that it doesn't stop growing. It cells out of control. It just takes over the body. And so, yeah, it's only one spot here. You leave it alone, and pretty soon it's moved from here to over here. And it'll move from here to over there. It doesn't stay in one place. It travels. And when it metastasizes, when it's set into your whole body, you're in trouble. That's what lying is. One little spot, we can get that taken care of. The longer you leave it, the more danger you are in. And when you live in a whole body of lies, you're in trouble. Does that make sense? The root reason we lie, why we lie, is really not just to get an advantage. It is about that. But for us, it's because we don't trust God. It's what we're doing is we're using the old things that we learned when we started out at 2.5. And we've crafted that, and we've perfected it. And then we did take notice of how everybody else was doing it, and how this works out for me, and why it's inevitable, and why it should be natural, and how I can use it to my advantage. When you begin to follow God, God says, I detest that. Spit that out. That's not what I'm about. I delight in those who speak the truth. So Paul wrote this to the early church. He says, okay, that, speaking about lots of different things, that, however, is not the way of life you learned when you heard about Christ and were taught in him according to the truth that is in Jesus. You were taught with regard to your former way of life, the way that you used to handle things, the way that you used to make your way through life, to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires. Your body, your mind is all gearing towards tricking yourself. You think you're going down the right path because you're on your own. It's only you. You got to figure out your way through life. You got to make sense of it all. It's deceitful. It's corrupted. But when you've come to Christ, you are to be made new in the attitude of your minds, to put on a new self, created to be like God, his character, in true righteousness and holiness. You don't deal with life the same way that you used to. There's a new target. You're part of God's thing. If you get that, then each of you must put off falsehood. Stop lying in any way, in all the ways that we would kind of excuse it. And speak the truth to your neighbor. For we are all members of one body. It's not about going down to going this situation, that situation. This is about going, I have God in my life. He has no room for all the shades. He's about the truth, and I want to be in the truth. I want to be a person of truth. I want to speak the truth, and I want to live in the truth. I don't want to have to keep track of everything. And I certainly don't want to be lying to myself and be deceived. Being people of the truth is about being real and honest with God, others, ourselves. It's about coming to a good place. I'm going to wrap this up here. I wish I could spend more time on this, but I just want to wrap it up with this thought here because it's important. The Bible speaks of this in terms of confession. Confession simply means to speak the truth. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he's part of the confessing church, the church that spoke the truth to the Nazis. That's not God's way. You're wrong. That's evil. We're called to be confessors about our life. We confess to God, not what we get right, but what we get wrong. That's why this isn't about perfection. But it's about being honest to God about this is where I'm really at. This is what I've done. This is where I need help. And it says God will grant forgiveness every time. Every time. But surprisingly, maybe terrifyingly, it also says, confess your sins to one another. So we're going to all stand up now and no, that's not what that means. I've already told you I lied today, so no. No, it's not about doing this public thing. It's about having this place where you can be honest with someone else about where you're at spiritually and what's going on in your life. Confess, speak the truth of who I am and what I'm facing, what I'm dealing with, so that you might be healed. Forgiveness and healing. That's the promise of speaking the truth and being people of truth. The world, no, I'm going to hide, I'm going to maneuver, I'm going to manipulate. That puts you into a box and into a prison. God is inviting us to come out of that. Trust him. Trust one another. This really lands with where I landed last week. To watch over each other in love. Last week it was about, you know what? We need to take an honest look at one another. And when you're in trouble, I need to be ready to be there for you. Not just sweep it under the rug. This week is, I need to watch over each other in love and be able to come to you and speak the truth about where I am. You're in trouble, I want to be there. And I want you to be able to come and say, I need help. I'm in trouble. And you to see it. Or I am in trouble and I can confess it and say, are you there for me? Right? We're not afraid anymore. God has loved us and accepted us, and that's what this community is about. Speaking the truth. Let's pray. Lord, this is an old bag of tricks for us. We've been doing it for a lot of years. It's almost second nature. In many ways, we don't even see it anymore or think about it anymore. We have already excused it. Maybe for some of us, we even see it glaringly and we're just kind of going, I need to stop. I need to be back in the truth. Lord, we're hearing your invitation to come be your people again from our hearts and our mouths in the way we live, that we are people of truth. For the good and for the bad. That we're honest with you, honest with one another. Give us that courage to be your people. Amen.